gonna lower my grandpa's bug.
Woohoo! We're gonna yell, lower my grandpa's bug. But you gotta say it so people can understand you. Ready?
Pretty close.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
You're silly. Will it look good low? Is it gonna look cool when we're done? Yeah? Okay. Alright, so as we're doing this, and this could end up being a separate breakout on the video, we are going to lower this car. That's something that's bugged me a little bit, is how high the car sits. And you can see we're right at 26 inches pretty much. We're gonna lower this a notch when we have the trans and everything out, and we will probably show that on another video. Well, while we have the transmission out, we are taking the opportunity to lower the car one notch on the splines in the rear here, which means we're going to have to undo these covers, pull them off, and see what we can do. Honestly, it's been a long time since my brothers lowered one of these, and I never had, so this could get interesting. From what we've seen, you pull the cover off, you got some bushings in there that I got new ones we're gonna replace, but you end up having to hit that trailing arm off. Make sure you mark it, and then we're gonna move it one notch up to actually be able to lower the car. And I think one notch lowers it about an inch, which I think will be pretty perfect on this car. It definitely had a crazy rake before when we started, so. So we haven't actually lowered an older one like this. I thought this was going to separate here and push off, but it didn't. I don't know that we're going to be able to replace this inner bushing. And so when I first knocked it off, I made a mark there that you can see. So right there is where it was when I first knocked it off the car. So to go up one spline is right there, which actually seems like it was a considerable move. So I'm not sure if it moves more from an inner spline than it does from an outer spline on these cars, because I know you could get different adjustability by doing an inner spline and an outer spline, but this is not coming apart. So the crazy part is all we can do is put it back together with one spline moved on the inner and do the same on the other side and hope it comes out like We've got this side buttoned up. If you noticed, we needed a little gentle persuasion. We did use a longer bolt on one of these to help get it started to suck down on that new bushing. Like I said, unfortunately, we couldn't replace that inner one. We just didn't have the time or to figure out what was going on there. Now on the other side, oops, my brother's starting to take it apart right now. But if you notice, this arm is actually already below that stopper. And it's interesting because I wondered before we started doing the car, if this side was higher kind of after the fact. We actually measured the passenger side and we screwed up and didn't measure the driver's side to see what kind of drop we would get. So we're gonna have to, this one might actually take 2 notches to get it to the correct height that we need, but we're going to kind of play it by the control arm in relation to that lower stopper there to see if we can get it evened out. We are soaking the crap out of the bolts on this side. This side where that control arm was actually popped out is kind of sketchier than we thought. At some point when this car got raised up from as low as it was, I don't think that torsion bar might have actually even been in all the way, which is what caused that arm to pop out. but look at what it's done to some of the bolts that are coming out of this thing. Clearly that bolt should not be that worn down and sketchy. So we're going to have to get some new bolts for this side, because yeah, these bolts are not going back in. Look at that one there. Oops, if my camera will focus. I mean, they're just nasty, nasty, nasty. My camera didn't want to focus on that one very well, but clearly there's something going on here. We will have to see what we can do to try and even this out and get some new bolts in it. We are having to go real slow on these because they are just gnarly. This was the last one that came out. And I mean, we were spraying the crap out of this one with WD-40 and letting it soak, spraying it, letting it soak. Every bit of these felt super sketchy, but this side looks like we're gonna get it out. We actually had to put the jack under for a little support on that trailing arm there. And I think we got it, but we're gonna have to make a run to the hardware store for some new bolts, because obviously these ones aren't going back in, and we're probably gonna have to spray the crap out of those thread holes and maybe even clean them up depending on what they look like. But I guess that's what happens when you get into some crazy projects. So we are installing the new bushing on this side. We definitely got all the bolts out without any of them breaking, which was a concern. And we do have new bolts. Ran to the hardware store really quick. We got new bolts going back in on this one. So we should be buttoning up, lowering the car. And then we're going to get the transmission and everything back in and see how far we can get today. I think lowering the car is probably going to be a separate video from all the other ones, but we'll see how that goes. The 56 is finally back on the ground. And we're done lowering the car. If you remember, when we first measured it, measured 26, and now we're just a little bit below 24. So that one notch, which was an inside notch on the car, lowered it about 2 inches, or maybe a little bit more actually in the rear, which actually gave it a really nice look. Funny thing is seeing the negative camber on those super fat tires on the back of this thing. And the best part is this side matches, which I think this driver's side was the side that it had to be an inch taller on this car. Had to be an inch taller on this one. So it looks a lot better. So what do you think, Pops? How do you think it looks?
Liking it. Liking
Yeah?
it a lot.
Yeah?
The lower stance, smaller tires up front, the readjusted back. Oh my gosh. Oh, that looks so good. Wow. Wow. Guys,
You like it?
I love it. I'm loving it. Oh, that engine compartment is so clean now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we did do the wiring, so we didn't have to come back and do it.
Yes. Got the wiring. Trav worked the wiring over quite a bit, cleaned it up. It looks a million times better than it did.
Not having the fuel filter in front.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it, oh man.
Yeah. It's good.
That really does look good.